Thank you for joining us for this episode of Season 3 of Comply on the Fly with M3 and Karen B. Comply on the Fly is your trusted weekly resource for reliable insight and quick answers to common employee benefits compliance questions. Please note this podcast and the contents herein do not constitute legal advice. Seek the advice of counsel for any employee benefits compliance related guidance or strategy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen B. And the Comply on the Fly topic for today is affordability coding for the 1095C form. As a reminder, under the ACA or Affordable Care Act shared responsibility requirements, employers with 50 or more full-time and full-time equivalent employees, as determined by the prescribed method, are required to offer affordable and valuable health coverage to their full-time employees or pay penalties if employees receive subsidies in the federal marketplace. Penalties are assessed based on forms filed with the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, and those forms are 1095Cs. A 1095C is completed for each full-time employee of the employer. So, how does an employer show that they have made an offer of affordable coverage to a full-time employee? This information is provided in Part 2 of the 1095C on lines 14, 15, and 16. For any month that an employer offered the coverage, line 14 would be typically populated with either a 1A code or a 1E code. Of course, there are exceptions if you offer coverage only to the employee or have a spousal carve-out or offer an ICRA, which is an individual coverage HRA. But typically, if you offer coverage to the employee, spouse, and dependents, you will code line 14 with a 1A or 1E. So what is the difference between the two? You can only use 1A on line 14 for the offer code if you use the federal poverty level safe harbor for affordability determinations. For 2023, that would mean that your lowest cost single coverage was $103.28 per month or lower. When using 1A, you would not need to complete line 15, which calls for the amount of the lowest cost single coverage. And finally, if using 1A, you would use 2C on line 16 if someone actually enrolled in the coverage, and 2G if someone waived. If you cannot use 1A, you would use 1E if you offer coverage to the employee, spouse, and dependents. You would then need to put the dollar amount of the lowest cost single coverage on line 15, and that would be a monthly amount. For line 16, you would code with a 2C if the employee enrolled in the coverage, and either code 2F if using the W-2 safe harbor for affordability, or 2H if using the rate of pay safe harbor for affordability. Of course, if you made an offer of coverage but it is not affordable and the employee did not enroll, you would leave line 16 blank. And that is your Comply on the Fly topic for today. Thanks for tuning in.
For more compliance insights from Karen B., please visit m3ins.com. You can also follow and subscribe to Comply on the Fly on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts.